Have you ever walked away from a conversation, not angry, not upset, but quietly unsure of yourself? You replay what was said. You question your memory. You wonder if you misunderstood something obvious. This reaction is not accidental. In psychology, it often signals a specific interpersonal pattern, known as narcissistic manipulation. And today, I want to explain it clearly. This video is not about diagnosing individuals. It is not about labeling anyone as a narcissist. It is about understanding a psychological pattern, one that affects thoughtful, self-aware, emotionally intelligent people. Education here is not about assigning moral blame. It is about restoring clarity. And near the end of this video, I'll share one simple psychological check that researchers and clinicians rely on to detect manipulation early, before confusion takes over. When people hear the word narcissism, they often imagine arrogance or ego. Someone loud, arrogant, and obsessed with his or herself quickly comes to mind. But in psychology, narcissistic behavior is less about self-love and more about how self-worth is regulated through other. Some individuals struggle to maintain a stable sense of worth internally, so they regulate it externally, through attention, admiration, compliance, or emotional reactions. Psychologists describe this regulation as narcissistic supply. Manipulation is simply the method used to secure it. This is why narcissistic manipulation is so confusing. It doesn't feel hostile. It often feels validating. If manipulation were obvious, it would fail. It often appears as charm, confidence, intensity, or emotional attunement. The mind does not look for danger when connection feels meaningful. The first phase is called idealization. During this stage, the individual mirrors your values, your communication style, and your emotional priorities. This creates rapid closeness. You feel seen, understood, chosen. You might hear things like, "You're different. I've never felt this before. I can be myself with you." Neurologically, attachment and reward systems activate. The connection feels authentic because emotionally it is experienced as real. You feel safe, connected, and important. Idealization works because it meets fundamental human needs to feel understood, valued, and psychologically safe. The mind does not register danger when connection feels validating. This is why early intuition often remains quiet. The danger is not the connection. The danger is what happens after. Over time, the dynamic begins to shift. Validation becomes inconsistent. Affection is withdrawn unpredictably. Criticism is introduced gradually, often disguised as honesty or concern. This is not accidental. Psychologically, this is known as intermittent reinforcement. It is one of the strongest conditioning mechanisms we know. The mind begins chasing what once felt secure. At this stage, people often report increased self-monitoring. They replay conversations, they adjust behavior, and they assume responsibility for relational strain. This response reflects conscientiousness, not weakness. However, it increases psychological dependency. Eventually, confusion sets in. They deny things they said, rewrite past events, tell you that you're too sensitive or imagining things. This is gaslighting. Not just lying, but slowly breaking your trust in your own perception. You stop asking, "Is this okay?" and start asking, "What's wrong with me?" At this point, the individual may rely increasingly on the manipulator's version of reality. That's where the real damage happens. It is important to note that some narcissistic manipulation can be overt or covert. Overt forms include dominance and intimidation. Covert forms include withdrawal, victimhood, and subtle guilt induction. Covert manipulation is often more confusing because it lacks visible aggression, yet produces the same psychological outcome. Narcissistic manipulation doesn't work because you're naive. It targets self-reflective individuals, people who care deeply, who self-examine, who want to repair conflict. These traits are strengths, but in manipulative systems, they become leverage. And the more self-aware you are, the more you may blame yourself instead of questioning the pattern. Over time, people caught in these dynamics often experience constant self-doubt, anxiety, emotional exhaustion, loss of confidence, a feeling of not knowing who I am anymore. And because it happens gradually, it's hard to explain to others, or even to yourself. Confusion becomes normalized. Breaking free doesn't start with confrontation. It starts with clarity. Here are 3 shifts that matter. First, stop asking why they behave this way and start noticing how it affects you. Second, re-anchor your reality. Talk to people who feel emotionally safe and grounded. Third, understand that boundaries are not speeches. They are repeated actions. You don't need them to agree with you. You need to protect your nervous system. This brings us to the most important insight, and the bonus I promised. As a final educational insight, there is one simple psychological check that reliably restores clarity. After interacting with someone, ask yourself, do I feel calmer or more confused? Healthy interactions reduce internal noise. Manipulative dynamics increase it. The body often detects psychological threat before the mind can explain it. Learning to trust this signal interrupts manipulation early. Narcissistic manipulation isn't magic. It follows recognizable patterns. Patterns can be studied, and what can be studied can be interrupted. Understanding weakens psychological control. Your mind did not fail you. It adapted under pressure. Understanding restores clarity, and clarity is where psychological freedom begins. This channel exists to teach clarity, slowly, calmly, and honestly. If this helped you see more clearly, you can subscribe for more Psychology Explained this way. Quietly, at your own pace.